Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, and a warm welcome to NTV Europe's London studios. I'm your host, Syed Niaz Ahmed, and the name of the program is Talking Point. We have within our studios, our guest today is Mr. Keshav Ji. He is a poet, might I as well say a philosopher, a writer, a film and literary critic, and director of SODA, Society of Indian Music and Poetry. His work has been appreciated all around throughout the world and by many of the channels operating in this country, but recently was appreciated by the Lord Mayor of Leeds Council. We congratulate him on that feat. His next venture is at the Royal Festival Hall, might I say, the iconic Royal Festival Hall in London, next month, and they will be dealing with the reinterpretation of the famous Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. Please do not confuse, as one of my friends did, like Farida Khalu. That's a different subject. And they will be looking at Frida Kahlo's work and her life through her work, nearly 200 paintings, and some 50 of the paintings are self-portraits. Through Indian classical music, I'll go to Mr. Keshav Ji and I will ask him about what is the secret behind his success first, because he, as I told you, he's involved in this, he's involved in that, he's involved in this, and then he doesn't live in London, he lives in Leeds, and he has a full-time job. How do you do that? You are Mr. Tarzan.
Thank you so much for this beautiful introduction, Niaz. But one thing, perhaps just let me clarify that this is happening in Royal Albert Hall.
Yep.
Royal Festival only performed before, but this is first time, Bengali, predominantly South Asian organization is doing an event under the banner of Royal Albert Hall. So this is an artistic partnership that we do.
Right.
But I think the answer to your question, there are many who are even more dynamic than myself, and then I feel I regret sometimes when I see some of the wonderful human beings that I count as iconic, as my icon sometime, and then they did so many things at a time, even at their 21 and 22 and 22nd.
Yes,
I'm just nearly reaching 50 and still...
Well, let me say you don't look it.
Thank you. So I was wondering whether sometime I feel when I think about these figures that I count as my icon.
Your icons.
Yes, and then I think I'm doing perhaps far less than what I was meant to do, and especially sometimes that because I have a omnivorous interest, and I do have passion, a huge passion for whatever I want to do. An interest, like you mentioned quite kindly, that I have interest in music, interest in literature, interest in theatre, and in some extent painting, another art form, folk music, classical music. But again, because you have such a limited time,
right,
and you always end up with having quite less time for each of the genre that you want to promote or that you want to work on. So many thanks for your kind words, but I feel perhaps we have to do more and more and more.
Yeah, we all have 24 hours, see, to eat, sleep and work, see.
Exactly.
And yet, some people seem to achieve or probably push in more in those 24 hours than some of us can, see. And I often wonder, that's why I keep asking questions to my guests, see, how do you manage this? Because to me, 24 hours is just 24 hours, not plus one.
Yeah, but, well, sometimes I feel if the time could be extended a bit more, because like you quite kindly said, I work full time, and that is although my background is from chemical engineering, but I work in local council, and I do more or less similar things that I do out of work. So at my work I do event management. I will I do number of events as part of the Leeds Council's libraries and information services. And then after work, then it comes to passion, because you have passion. And I always, some of the words that I'm not sure about others, but some of the words that inspire me a lot, and one of those words are from the last president, perhaps, Kalam Azad, last president of India, previous
AJP Abdul Kalam.
AJP Abdul Kalam.
You're not Azad, I don't think so.
Abdul Kalam, yes.
Yes, that is because the heavy shadow of Maulana Abdul Kalam.
Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad, exactly. So APJ Kalam, what he said, the dream is not something what people say, what people see when they sleep. The dream is something that has stolen your sleep. So I think sometimes the similar kind of syndrome, I have lots of dreams, and then I know we have very limited time to achieve this. And that is perhaps another reason why sometimes I feel insomnia many nights, because I have so many things to do, actually, I feel. Then like you said, we have only 24 hours to shape this.
Well, we all have a dream. So had Martin Luther King.
Great.
This historic fusion of the two complementing art forms at Royal Albert Hall, a reinterpretation of Frida Kahlo through Indian classical music, and therein I understand quite a few very famous sitarists, tabla maestros, and I think a singer and somebody who can, I think what Bangla bola hai, Abriti.
Abriti, yes, spoken word artist.
Spoken word artist.
Historically, perhaps.
So tell us something about what is this, how are you going to reinterpret a Mexican artist's work who had suffered in her life. She was in pain throughout her life. Exactly. Her paintings reflect her pathos. Exactly. But the thing is that how do you interpret in music? She was not a musician.
Yes, that is very interesting. That is the question I personally have been asked by many Western journalists as well, and they find it really interesting because they would like to explore how this is getting shaped. So first of all, because you are an avid follower of Shoda's work, and then I came to the studio as your guest perhaps 2 times before, and as you can remember, since the inception of Shoda for about 12 years ago, we started developing the idea of interpretation. And because I'm the disciple of a great French philosopher, like I feel like sort of I'm a spiritual disciple of a great French philosopher, Jacques Derrida, who is a post-structuralist philosopher who developed the idea of interpretation. And then another post-structural philosophers, many of your audiences perhaps come across with, one is Roland Barthes. Remember, we at our childhood, we learned how to analyze poetry with আলোচ্য অংশটুকুতে কবি কি বলতে চেয়েছেন, and Derrida just denied this. just denied the way of that kind of analysis. Just and especially Roland Barthes is the one who said death of an author. So once you write something, you are dead, and the way I explore is the way your writing is going to sustain.
Right.
So the way I interpret. So you left some signs and signifiers in your work, and then I explore in completely perhaps different ways. So that was a very shaping idea, very epochal idea, and then that made a huge influence. And as you can, as you remember, perhaps we did something in Royal Festival Hall, not Royal Albert Hall, Royal Festival Hall, about 7 or 8 years ago. That was also interpreting music with poetry, and poetry from the poets around the globe. So George Seferis, Cavafy for an example, Lorca for an example, Pablo Neruda, and also visual interpretation by the dance. But this is very interesting, and perhaps this is a landmark event for Shodo and also for the audience of art world. So we are getting huge responses from mainstream medias, Guardian, BBC, and also mainstream venues, Barbican Center, and many other venues are interested in to host this. After Albert Hall showed their interest to host this epoch-making event, the event is reinterpretation of Frida Kahlo, and like you mentioned already in your introduction, that Frida Kahlo's world is so melancholic. So she was actually depicting her own life, almost like autobiographic, more than 50 art, like you mentioned, that was connecting to her biography, her ups and downs, and mostly this is about the tragedy she was trying to cope with. And one among them is, perhaps you noticed that a deer by few arrows.
Okay, Keshaji, we need to have a break, and that is the death of the conversation.
Sure. Sure.
So we'll be back soon after this very short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. Welcome back to our millions of viewers all across the world. We're talking about Frida Kahlo's paintings and how it will be recreated, reinterpreted next month at Elgar Room of the iconic Royal Albert Hall. Yes, I have a statement here, must have got it from somewhere. Frida Kahlo's painting, unconventional, have become a symbol of hope, suffering, and strength. You did mention a bit about it.
Yeah.
How would you agree, disagree with this statement?
Yeah, I do. So her painting can be seen from all different point of view. So like all great literature or great art form. So great art form just gives you or instigates some ideas to you, and then you see from different point of view. So her art actually was and still has been a great inspiration for feminism. And like you mentioned, so this is a great portrayal of personal sufferings. So the art is actually a kind of remedy that Frida Kahlo was seeking, and art gives her that remedy. And also when you see this, when I personally see this, that gives remedy to any burning soul or suffered soul. So that's why Frida Kahlo, and like you said, unconventional. So before her, you won't see a painter is portraying herself and telling her own stories.
Well, most painters, the period painters, they couldn't afford models, you see. So they had their own selves, you see.
Yeah.
And so it's like even Van Gogh.
Yeah.
He painted himself.
Exactly. So all art actually talks about a artist himself or
and
herself.
inner self.
Yes, inner self. And then that echoes and that resonates the pain and the suffering of others, those who actually appreciate this art form. So perhaps for what I was trying to say, you mentioned you asked about the recreation and reinterpretation, how the reinterpretation is happening. So reinterpretation is shedding a new light on Frida Kahlo's painting and her life. So see, this is an opportunity for an audience to re-explore her beautiful work. Say, for instance, if she was musician, how would she react to the sufferings that she went through? So, as you know, this Indian classical music, more or less about the portrayal of pain. So, whenever you go to an Indian classical music concert, the success of the concert is measured by whether you end up with tears. So it doesn't matter whether it is
the artist made you cry.
Made you cry. So that is the, and because Indian ragas are designed to bring tears in your eyes. And whenever you listen, for example, Ravi Shankar ji, people say, oh, it brings tears to my eyes. So that is the...
But sometimes they're tears of joy, isn't it?
Exactly, exactly. It not necessary, it's not necessarily... and then, but joy again is quite close to pain as well. So whatever you say, joy, Rabindranath said, Ananda dhara bohiche bhuvane. But when you start singing, when you say Ananda, and you see a level of pain there as well. So pain lies in joy, and joy lies in pain as well. So Indian ragas...
It's back again to interpretation.
It's a cycle, yes. So that's... Indian raga is, I think, the suitable media to interpret Frida Kahlo, because Frida Kahlo's universe is so melancholic. And Indian classical music, although it talks about joy, but it ends up, it concludes in tears, in pain. So whenever you listen to, for example, some late night ragas, or classical music in general, provokes you to have a journey through a flood of tears. So that's why I think that came. Well, we've been working for this idea for the last 5 or 6 years, because Frida Kahlo, when I started exploring Frida's work about 10 or 15 years ago, and Frida Kahlo, to be honest, is the one who influenced my idea so hugely, so remarkably. I watched her painting. I watched a film made on her life as well, and then I was also a big fan of her husband Diego, who was a good friend of Trotsky as well. Trotsky tried to save his life under the shelter of Diego and Frida. So Frida, I think that for the audiences, they can relate. So perhaps some of the audiences will come from co-painting background, so they know how Frida created the universe of melancholic ambience, but they will end up with being an admirer of Indian classical music, because this is an event also being performed by the best of the globe. Especially the Hindustani classical violinist Vidushi Kalaramnath ji is joining from USA. She just finished her tour with Ustad Zakir Hussain, and now she's coming to join this outstanding.
And who are the other artists?
And then she will be accompanied on tabla by one of the leading tabla maestro here in the UK, Pandit Sanju Sahai, and then also this is because I'm from Bengali background, and I was thinking whether we could interpret her universe with Bengali music. And one of the finest of this generation now, and she's almost like born and bred, brought up here in this country, one of the finest British Bengali singers in this generation, Shapla Salek, who will be singing a remarkable song from Radha Raman, Kare Dekhabo Moner Dukkho Go Buk Chiriya. So this is a lamentation of the soul being operated in everyone's mind, and definitely Frida. When you look at the Frida's painting, you feel like sort of she was trying to say, Kare dekhabo moner dukkho go ami buk chiriya. I wish if I could rip my heart and show the whole world what is happening, what sort of pain happening in this, in my heart. So whenever you look at this artist universe, you feel like sort of she herself is singing through the painting. She is actually singing and saying, Kare dekhabo moner dukkho go. If I could somehow rip my heart and show the whole world what is being burned in my heart.
Our best songs are our sad songs.
Shelley's remarkable live verses from Nightingale, a beautiful poet from Nightingale. Our sad songs, our
best songs,
our sweetest songs are those that tells of the saddest feeling of our heart or something. So আমাদের মধুরতম সঙ্গীত হলো যা আমাদের হৃদয়ের বেদনার কথা বলে। So this is true in a sense. Melancholy always hugely connected to any art form, not just music, not just literature, not just painting. So whenever you look at any painting of especially Barak age, surrealist painting is different, but the painting of Barak age is hugely connected to pain. Michael,
would you have any reprints of Frida Kahlo's work around that room?
Well, this is interesting. A friend of mine who is an award-winning filmmaker, Maqbul Chaudhry, who is also making a visual interpretation. So he's making beautiful digital contents. So Frida Kahlo's painting, we selected about 20 or 25 painting that can suitably or that can ideally portray the, yes, so it will be in the
while the music is on.
Yes, so music is on. Say for instance, my idea is you know, when you do classical music, you know, tan sargam. So when you do tan sargam, for an example, this is a subtle part of khayal or classical music, whatever. So at that time, we will try to project it. There are some wonderful paintings of Frida. One is a deer being shot by a few arrows. So if arrows went through her chest, through the deer's chest, and then blood is dipping like one drop, two drop, and it's so vivid, and you see the pain. And some ragas, the idea of some ragas are like this. So Bimpalosri, for an example, Bimpalosri is actually the portrayal of lamentation when from a perhaps when a bird is shot, and because I mentioned bird because birds' love is different. They are so profound. So when bird died, man bird or woman bird died, the other bird never get married, never find any other company. So they just lament for the whole as long as they live, and then they die. So their bonding is so close. So bird as if
so the expression "feel free like a bird" is really absurd.
So the bird, almost like a bird's lamentation when in front of her eyes or in front of his eyes, his husband or wives are shot by
You're very conventional. You talk about husband and wife, and not lover and beloved.
well, for birds, actually, husband and wife ideal, because they take such a long time to choose their partner. So once they get merged, they merged forever. So they are not polygamous. So this is something that you can learn from bird's life, actually. So they, once the husband or wife or the male partner or female partner die, they never find another one. So they just lament for the whole life. They just wail for the whole life. And this wail is the aim of some ragas to portray in your voice or whatever you play. So I mean, whenever you look at Frida Kahlo's painting, you see that sort of lamentation is invisibly happening within the whole canvas. So that is my aim as the director. I am aiming to give audiences a never experienced, I mean, something to witness that have not been experienced before. When you look at because obviously each art form is intensifying other or complementing other art forms. So whenever you look at the Frida's canvas, you are concluding with very melancholic emotions, and then when your when your ears are so busy with the lamentation being created by the best of the world.
All right.
So I would like our audiences to experience this.
What language are you using? I mean, like obviously Bengali song will be sung in Bangla, but
yeah, that would be a Shapla is doing a fusion, so that I mean fusion not in a not with some other music or something like this. So there will be some sort of translation for whatever she will be singing. So that will give an idea what is being sung and how these words are so related to Frida's work. But mainly the violin. So violinist, like I mentioned.
Somebody is also accompanying on the harmonium, isn't it?
No harmonium. So it will be just purely violin with tabla accompaniment, and Sanju Bhai and also head of Benares Gharana here. So Benares Gharana, Kumar Boshi is the finest. But again, he came from, Sanju Bhai came from that Gharana. He's inheriting and he's representing this Gharana from family background. Kumar Boshi is inheriting from artist point of view, artist background, but he came from that Gharana through family, traditionally. And like I mentioned to you, Mewati Gharana is great and the finest now from Hindustani. So whenever this can be a bit misleading for the audiences who are from classical music background. So whenever I say the finest of Hindustani classical violin, I also remember that there is a great maestro, a friend of Yahudi Manuhin, a friend of Ravi Shankarji,
okay,
L. Subramanian.
Sarji, we need to take a break.
Yeah.
And when we come back, we'll start with the short video that you have provided with us. Okay?
Thank you, Niyatji.
Thank you for being with us, and we'll be back soon after this short break. Thank you. Welcome back. We would like to show you a clip of Frida Kahlo's and what is going to take place on, what is the date?
13th of July.
13th of July.
In Royal Albert Hall.
At Royal Albert Hall. Can we see that clip, please? Thank you. demand. Right, that was about the forthcoming Frida Kahlo's appreciation program, interpretation rather. Well, I've come across a statement. Why this obsession with Frida Kahlo? She had a very emotional, painful and a strenuous life, but still she persisted and became one of the most famous artists of all time. That's not in the end. Every time one sees her art, we see her battles. We wonder what happened to her to make her such a tortured artist. She had 30 different surgeries because of the road accident.
Exactly.
And her heart is considered as an artistic therapy. Would you like to say something about that?
Exactly. This is artistic therapy. Before this, I would like to just clarify what I was telling before. So, Kala Ramnath ji is from Hindustani classical violin, but also another great violinist, a friend of Yahud Manohin, that is called L. Subramaniam ji, is still alive, but he's from Carnatic background. So that is something I needed to clarify. Another thing that you mentioned, he's especially surrealism is a very popular movement in art history, not just art history, literature. It influenced literature and many other art forms. But surrealism is also another is something that is being misunderstood by audiences or readers, because obviously it's talk about it gives you it opens up an horizon of subconscious mind. But when it comes to Frida Kahlo, so whenever you talk about other surrealist painter or poets or writers, you prepare yourself to read or listen or to watch something that is not that can't be defined in real sense. So you prepare yourself for watching. But Frida, it can be read or appreciated by anyone, because they portray her painting actually portrays something that you can connect with. We can connect with
the hard facts
because
of life.
Struggles, like you said, the battles she went through, her personal circumstances, personal tragedies that we all go through, and then and this visceral situation, more or less, we all have the experience of. So that's why perhaps Frida, although she's her art form is something, a form that must be appreciated by academics and the serious art lovers, but it can equally appeal to a non-art lover like myself and others. So that is perhaps the uniqueness of Frida Kahlo. So another thing that I would like to mention, we were talking while the break was happening. So reinterpretation, I'm sure you know that we did so many landmark reinterpretation events. We did Sebastian Bach's Goldberg variation, Indian classical, Western classical with Indian classical music, Rachmaninoff. Shodo has done many other events, like which we have been working how to merge Javanese classical music called gamelan with Indian classical music. So we have done many, but this is a unique art form, a unique way of fusion, where painting, a completely two different art forms are being complementing each other, and the emotions being intensified through this merging. So whenever you listen music, your attention is quite linear. But whenever you are coming to Royal Albert Hall, fortunately this is getting sold out now. So I'm sure those who are watching, if you could buy as soon as you can, if you don't want to miss, this is Elgar Room has very limited capacity, so that's why. And with this world-leading performance,
why not in the main hall?
So
that
main
has
hall,
in excess of 5,000.
Yeah, main hall has more, perhaps about 10,000 audiences. So main hall is
now the security thing is 5,000.
Yes. So main for this kind of experimental event, main hall is not a suitable one. Although the artists who are performing there, they performed main hall many times. Kala Ramnathji performed in the main hall. Shapla just finished her world tour with Nitin Sweeney. She also performed in Royal Albert Hall before. So this is a very, this is an honor to a South Asian art form, art organization who has been working relentlessly and presenting the best of the world in last 12 or 13 years. So Royal Albert Hall is perhaps honoring this journey by hosting this landmark event in their beautiful Elgar Room venue. But because this has a very short, very limited capacity, those who are watching, they have to work perhaps faster. So this will bring you an experience. Many of us perhaps heard Royal Albert Hall, and we know that this is their venue. So we would like to break the stereotypes. They have foyer spaces as well, so we can do something in foyer spaces. But this is in Elgar Room, very prestigious Elgar Room. So we have to break the stereotypes. We always go to Royal Albert Hall.
How long is the whole thing?
About 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours. So always there is our venue, their venue. So whenever we go to Royal Albert Hall, this is their venue. So we need to preach the rich art form from Indian subcontinent and present there, and then we count this as our venue. So I think, and especially we need to go as frequently as it is possible to go Royal Albert Hall, watch the beautiful programs, not just what we are presenting. I'm sure that if we go there, more
what the other artists are presenting.
Exactly. So we will learn about, because Royal Albert Hall present the best of the world. This is the most iconic art venue in the world. So more we go, more we learn how they present a world-class event.
The ambience is different.
Ambience is different. So once you go there, and then architecture. Look at the architecture of the venue. So perhaps we heard a lot about Royal Albert Hall, and this is a chance for us to go and explore what Royal Albert Hall is and what they present. And not just the event that we are hosting. We need to go as frequently as possible just to be familiar what is the best presentation of art, global arts, and then we can perhaps reflect this in whatever.
How are you going to do that? Very, very briefly. The musicians will be playing, and somebody from the background, perhaps you, will be interpreting their music and identifying it with
a friend of mine, a wonderful spoken word artist, Sri Ganguly, who will be, and many of us perhaps do not know that Frida was a great poet as well. So her poetry, and then she will actually link, she will read from the script just to link the music part, how this music is complementing the art form, the art that is being portrayed or screened on the projector. So Sri Ganguly will be there too, and she's herself a poet. So through poetry and a bit of narrative, bit of narration, just to give audiences a clue how, like your question or other people from other genres who would like to find out how this beautiful fusion is happening. So she will give some clues how this music is actually interpreting what Frida was trying to convey through her painting.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk to you always, and it was a pleasure to talk to you today, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for letting people in our community know.
Well, we serve the community in any which capacity we can. I understand you are also going to be busy with something on wars and violence against war.
Yes, that is a very interesting project that we have been doing. We had a wonderful session in Richmix. We had a launch that is against Ukrainian, Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but also the war happening all around the world, the violence happening all around the world.
Okay then, thank you very much. It was a pleasure
talking
to you.
Thank you
and
very
thanks
much.
for coming along. I wish you success.
Thank you, and see you
again sometime.
Yes, okay.
Thank you for being with us, and we hope that you've enjoyed the show as much as we have, and see you again, same time, same channel.